The $1 Empire. Episode 1, Four Wipes. At 37 years old, Adrian Vale sat alone inside the shuttered Valeworks office. The company name still clung to the glass entrance, though several letters had fallen loose. Empty desks stood beneath dead ceiling lights. Unopened debt notices covered the floor around Adrian's chair. On his laptop, one figure remained visible above everything else. Total liabilities, $11 million. Adrian stared at the number without blinking. 15 years of work had ended in an abandoned office, unpaid employees and creditors waiting outside. Julian Rook, the man Adrian had trusted most, had walked away with the contracts, the clients, and the future they were supposed to build together. Adrian closed the laptop. "I knew every number," he said quietly, "except the ones that mattered." His reflection appeared in the black screen, exhausted eyes, an unshaven face, and a man who looked older than 37. The lights outside the office disappeared one by one. Adrian lowered his head. "If I had $1 and one more chance." The room went dark. Adrian opened his eyes to the sound of rain striking a narrow window. He was lying on a thin mattress inside Brackett House, room 3B. The cramped walls were painfully familiar. An old desk stood beside the bed. A cheap jacket hung from the back of a chair. Adrian stared at his younger hands gripping the blanket. He rushed to the mirror. The face staring back at him was his own at 22 years old. He touched his cheek, then checked his arms and chest as though expecting his older body to return. On the desk sat an outdated phone. Its date confirmed what his reflection had already told him. 15 years had vanished. Adrian searched his pockets. He found no bank card, no hidden savings, and no miracle waiting for him. Only one coin rested in his palm, $1. A transparent interface appeared before him without sound. The ledger. Cash, $1. Verified net worth, $1. Liabilities, $0. Challenge day, 1. Adrian waved his hand through the display. The interface remained in place but offered no explanation. "Can you make money?" Nothing answered. "Can you tell me what to buy?" The ledger stayed silent. It displayed only what Adrian already possessed. No gift, no loan, no guaranteed opportunity. Just $1 and the memories of a future that had already destroyed him once. A knock sounded at the door. Nia Park stood outside holding a small brown paper bag against her side. She was a 22-year-old East Asian woman with long, straight black hair, a soft oval face, almond-shaped dark brown eyes, and fair skin with a warm undertone. A small beauty mark rested beneath her left eye. Her cream-ribbed top, light blue jeans, white sneakers, and simple silver jewelry made her look naturally polished without appearing overdressed. Her expression was calm, but her gaze was sharp and slightly teasing. "You look like you saw a ghost," Nia said. Adrian stared at her for several seconds. In his previous life, he had not seen her in years. Nia raised one eyebrow. "Are you going to keep staring?" "Sorry." Her eyes dropped to the coin in his hand. "That your entire breakfast budget?" "My entire budget." Nia looked past him into the room. She saw the empty desk, the unmade bed, and the expression Adrian could not hide. "The Lantern Yard market is already opening," she said. "Someone there always needs an extra pair of hands. I'm not asking for charity. I didn't offer any." Nia turned to leave. "Work first, pride later." Adrian looked again at the dollar. A memory surfaced from his previous life. On this morning, Maribel had thrown away a damaged box of cleaning supplies behind her market stall. 4 industrial wipes had remained inside the box. Adrian remembered walking past them without stopping because he had been too embarrassed to search through discarded stock. A new line appeared in the ledger. Future memory claim recorded. Maribel discards damaged cleaning stock before midday. The ledger did not call the memory true. It merely recorded Adrian's claim. Adrian closed his hand around the coin and left room 3B. Lantern Yard Market was crowded with delivery carts, folding tables, and vendors preparing for the day. Rainwater had mixed with dirt along the walkway. Metal counters carried fingerprints, grease, and dried stains from the previous evening. Adrian walked toward the place where he remembered finding Mara's discarded box. There was no box. A new delivery cart occupied the space. Adrian stopped. His memory had already failed. Then he noticed Mara Bell standing behind a supply stall, struggling with a torn cardboard package. One corner had split open, leaving 4 individually wrapped industrial cleaning wipes inside. She had not discarded them, not yet. The ledger changed. Future memory claim partially diverged. Adrian studied the real scene instead of trusting the past. Mara Bell? Mara looked up. Do I know you? Not yet. That answer usually means trouble. Adrian pointed toward the damaged packet. How much for the 4 wipes? Mara glanced at the packet, then back at him. The box is ruined. The wipes aren't. $2. Adrian opened his palm and showed her the coin. $1. Mara laughed once. That is not how negotiating works. It is if nobody else will buy damaged stock. Mara folded her arms. Adrian continued. You get $1 now instead of throwing them away later. She studied his face, waiting for him to reveal the trick. There is no trick, Adrian said. I need the wipes more than you do. Mara took the coin and pushed the 4 wipes toward him. $1, no refunds. The ledger updated immediately. Cash, $0. Recognized expense, $1. Adrian now owned 4 wipes and nothing else. He approached a nearby food vendor whose steel counter was covered in dried grease. I can remove that stain, Adrian said. The vendor shook his head and continued arranging containers. You pay only if it comes off, Adrian added. $2. That made the vendor pause. There was no risk in the offer. If Adrian failed, the customer paid nothing. Adrian opened the first wipe and pressed it against the metal. He worked slowly, using the cleaner side for the final pass. The dark grease mark disappeared. The vendor inspected the counter, then handed Adrian $2. The ledger recorded the payment. Revenue, $2. Adrian did not celebrate. He looked across the market for the next visible problem. A display case carried dirty handprints. A painted sign had a fresh streak of mud. A drink stall had syrup dried across one corner of its counter. Adrian repeated the same offer each time. $2. Pay only if it works. The second wipe cleaned the display case. Another $2 entered his hand. The third removed the mud without damaging the painted sign. $2 more. For the fourth wipe, Adrian returned to Mara's stall. A black delivery mark ran across the front of her white counter. Mara looked at the $6 in his hand. You bought those from me for $1. I bought the risk, Adrian replied. Now I'm selling the result. You want me to pay $2 for one of my own wipes? Only if the mark disappears. Mara stepped aside. Go on then. Adrian used the final wipe. The black mark faded, but a thin line remained at the edge. He turned the wipe over and pressed harder. The final streak came away. Mara ran one finger across the clean surface. Then she placed $2 in Adrian's palm. That was either very clever, she said, or very desperate. Both. Mara looked toward the 3 clean stalls. What happens tomorrow when you have no wipes? Adrian closed his fingers around the money. Tomorrow I buy more than 4. The ledger appeared again. Starting cash, $1. Revenue, $8. Recognized expense, $1. Profit, $7. Ending cash, $8. Verified net worth, $8. Adrian stood in the middle of Lantern Yard Market as vendors moved around him. $8 was almost nothing. It could not repay $11 million. It could not undo Julian's betrayal. It could not rebuild Vale Works. But it was clean money. No debt, no gift, no false valuation. $1 had become $8 because Adrian had noticed waste, negotiated the risk, and sold a measurable result. Nia appeared at the edge of the market, still carrying the small paper bag. Her long black hair moved lightly in the breeze as she glanced at the money in Adrian's hand. "You found work." Adrian watched Mara open another damaged carton behind her stall. "No," he said. "I found a transaction." The ledger displayed one final message. "Past knowledge may diverge after present intervention." Adrian looked across the crowded market. The future, he remembered, was no longer guaranteed. That meant his failures could change. It also meant every advantage he possessed would become less reliable each time he used it. Adrian placed the $8 inside his pocket. "Good," he said. For the first time since waking in his younger body, he smiled. A future that cannot change would not be worth returning to. Morning light entered Brackett House, room 3B, through the narrow window. Adrian Vale sat at the old desk with 8 $1 coins arranged in a straight line. He counted them once, then again. The amount had not changed overnight. A transparent display appeared above the desk, the ledger. Challenge Day 2. Cash, $8. Verified net worth, $8. Liabilities, $0. Adrian leaned back in the wooden chair. $8 was 8 times what he had owned yesterday. It was also barely enough to survive another day. A knock sounded against the open door. Nia Park stepped inside carrying the same small brown paper bag from the previous morning. Her long black hair fell over one shoulder and the small beauty mark beneath her left eye shifted slightly as she raised an eyebrow at the coins. "You arranged them by height?" "They're all the same height." "That somehow makes this worse." Adrian gathered the coins into his palm. "I'm going back to Lantern Yard." "To clean more counters?" "To buy more wipes." Nia leaned against the doorframe. "And when someone else copies you?" Adrian paused. Nia nodded toward the money. $8 is good. It's more than I had yesterday. But $8 isn't a business. Adrian looked at her. "What is?" "Something that still earns money when people know how it works." She turned toward the hallway. "Try not to build your empire out of disposable tissues." Adrian followed her out. Lantern Yard Market was already louder than the previous day. Vendors who had ignored Adrian now watched him as he walked past. Several counters had been wiped clean by their owners. One man stood beside a bucket, offering cleaning for $1. The idea had survived less than 24 hours before being copied. Nia glanced at the competing cleaner. That was fast. It was obvious. Yesterday it wasn't. Adrian stopped near the center of the market. The other cleaner worked quickly, but the dirty water from his cloth left gray lines across the steel. He was selling effort. Adrian had sold a result. Mara Bell stood behind her stall, opening a fresh carton of cleaning supplies. "You're late," she said. "I didn't know we had an appointment." "We don't." Mara placed a sealed packet containing 24 commercial wipes on the counter. "But 6 vendors have asked whether the strange boy with the $1 business is coming back." Nia smiled slightly. "Strange boy?" Mara pointed at Adrian. "His face looks like he's attending a funeral while cleaning grease." Adrian examined the packet. "How much?" $8. That's the retail price. Yesterday you bought damaged stock. Today the box isn't damaged." 6. 7. Adrian looked around Mara's stall. 2 additional cartons were stacked beneath the counter. "You have more stock than yesterday." "I own a supply stall. That tends to happen." "And you have a new competitor selling cleaning for $1. Mara followed his gaze toward the man with the bucket. "He bought a cloth and copied you. If he succeeds, fewer vendors buy wipes from you individually." Mara studied Adrian. "You're negotiating with my future losses now?" "I'm offering you $6 guaranteed today." And what do I get if your little business survives? Adrian placed 6 coins on the counter. A repeat customer. Mara considered the offer, then pushed the packet toward him. $6! The ledger appeared. Cash, $2. Recognized inventory expense, $6. Adrian lifted the packet. Nia looked at the 2 remaining coins. What's the plan? 6 spot cleaning jobs? 3 closing clean jobs? You already have the customers? No. So your plan is actually a wish. Adrian handed her the packet while removing an old notebook from his jacket. You said a business needs to survive after people understand it. I did. I need 3 vendors willing to pay $6 each for a closing clean. Nia stared at him. You want me to find them? Yes. What do I get? Adrian had expected her to help because she had pointed him toward the market. That expectation lasted less than a second. What do you want? $4? I only have 2. Then pay me after the customers pay you. The ledger remained silent. It did not reject the agreement, but Adrian understood the risk immediately. You're extending labor before payment. I'm selling you a result. Nia's expression became slightly playful. Sound familiar? Adrian looked toward the market. What result? 3 confirmed customers, agreed price, agreed work, no pretending that someone looked interested. $4 if all 3 accept. $2 if I bring only 1 or 2. Nothing if nobody agrees. Nia extended her hand. Deal. Adrian shook it. The ledger appeared. Pending labor obligation recorded. Maximum payable, $4. Nia looked at the empty air in front of Adrian. You're doing that strange staring thing again. I'm calculating. You should work on making it look less haunted. Adrian opened the notebook and wrote, Closing clean, $6, counter surface, display glass, front-facing stains, payment after inspection, extra areas priced separately. He tore out 3 pages and handed them to Nia. Make them agree to the result before we begin. You're worried they won't pay? I'm worried they'll ask for more work after agreeing to less. Nia folded the pages. That sounds personal. It will be. She walked into the crowd. Adrian approached the first vendor who had asked about him. The woman pointed at a row of fingerprints across her glass display. $2? $2 for the marked section. What about the shelves? 2 more. The woman frowned. The other man charges 1. Adrian looked toward his competitor. The man was spreading the same dirty cloth across a second counter. You're not paying me to move my hands, Adrian said. You're paying me to make the marks disappear. The woman examined her display again. $2, only the front. Adrian opened the first wipe. The job took less than 2 minutes. The fingerprints vanished. The woman inspected the glass from both sides, then handed him $2. The ledger updated. Revenue, $2. Adrian moved to the next stall, then the next. He refused work when the requested result required more supplies than the customer would pay for. He separated small stains from full cleanings. He stopped giving the entire service away for 1 price. By midday, 6 vendors had each paid $2. Spot cleaning revenue, $12. Adrian had used 6 wipes, 18 remained. Nia returned with 3 signed notebook pages. 1 spice stall, 1 drink stall, and 1 bakery counter. All $6? All 6. She handed him the papers. The bakery owner tried to include the floor. What did you say? That the floor was apparently not part of the counter. Adrian looked at her. Nia smiled. I can negotiate too. They waited until the market began closing. The first full job was the spice stall. Oil and colored powder covered the counter. Adrian divided the surface into sections and used the wipes carefully rather than treating them as disposable cloths. Nia checked the written scope while the owner watched. When the counter was clean, the owner ran a hand over the surface and paid $6. The second job was easier. Sticky drink syrup had hardened along the edge of a metal counter. Adrian used warm water supplied by the vendor to soften the residue before using the wipes. The owner inspected the surface and paid $6. At the bakery stall, the problem was worse. Burnt sugar had hardened beside the display case. Crumbs filled the narrow gaps around the metal frame. Adrian used one wipe, then another. The stain faded but did not disappear. The bakery owner folded his arms. "You said payment after inspection." "I did. And it's still there." Nia looked at the 2 unused wipes remaining in Adrian's packet. If the final job failed, the owner would pay nothing. Adrian crouched beside the counter. In his previous life, he had lost far larger deals because he refused to admit when his original plan was insufficient. He had defended bad decisions until they became expensive failures. He would not repeat that mistake over $6. "The wipe alone isn't enough," Adrian said. The owner shrugged. "Then we're finished." "No." The agreed result was a clean counter, not the use of a specific product. Adrian asked for a cup of warm water and a blunt wooden utensil. He softened the edge of the burnt sugar and carefully lifted the thickest layer without scratching the metal. Then he used the final 2 wipes to remove the residue. The dark mark disappeared. The bakery owner bent closer. "You nearly failed." Adrian stood. "Nearly doesn't appear on the invoice." The owner laughed and handed him $6. Closing clean. Revenue, $18. Total. Revenue, $30. Adrian opened his hand. $32 rested in his palm, the $2 he had kept plus $30 in revenue. He counted $4 and passed them to Nia. She accepted the money without hesitation. Labor expense paid, $4. Pending obligation cleared. Nia looked at the money Adrian had left. $28. Adrian nodded. The ledger appeared before him. Starting cash, $8. Revenue, $30. Inventory expense, $6. Labor. Expense, $4. Net profit, $20. Ending cash, $28. Verified net worth, $28. Liabilities, $0. Yesterday, Adrian had multiplied $1 by noticing an opportunity. And today, he had learned that an opportunity could be copied. The cleaning product was not his advantage. The advantage was the offer, defined result, agreed scope, payment after inspection, controlled cost. Nia watched him staring at the ledger. "You made $20. We made $20. You made $20. I made $4. You brought the customers. And you cleaned the counters." Adrian looked toward the competing cleaner. The man with the bucket had already left. Several of his counters still carried gray streaks. Mara approached them while locking one side of her stall. 12 vendors want their counters cleaned before opening tomorrow, she said. Adrian turned. At what price? $3 each. Too low. Mara raised an eyebrow. You charged $2 yesterday. Yesterday I was selling one wipe at a time. And today? Adrian looked across the market. Tomorrow I sell a route. Nia crossed her arms. A route requires a schedule. I know. Customer names? I know. Payment tracking? I know. And someone who can talk to people without looking like he's calculating the value of their organs. Adrian glanced at her. How much? Nia's smile returned. Now you're learning. Before they could continue, a polished black car stopped near the market entrance. The vehicle looked out of place among delivery carts and old vans. A young man stepped out wearing a dark coat and an expensive watch. His hair was neatly styled and his smile carried the confidence of someone accustomed to entering rooms that already belonged to him. He spoke briefly to one of the vendors, then looked toward Adrian. Adrian's body became still. The face was younger. The smile was less controlled. But Adrian recognized him immediately. Julian Rook, the man who, 15 years from now, would take Valeworks apart piece by piece. Julian approached with his hands in his coat pockets. "I heard someone turned $1 into a market service in one day." His eyes moved from Adrian to Nia, then to the signed cleaning pages in her hand. "You organized this?" Adrian said nothing. Julian extended his hand. Julian Rook. The ledger appeared. Future memory subject identified. Warning, present contact occurred earlier than recorded memory. Julian's hand remained between them. "We haven't met," he said. Adrian stared at the man who had destroyed his previous life. Then he looked at the offered hand. "No," Adrian replied. "Not yet." Julian Rook's hand remained extended between them. Around him, Lantern Yard Market continued closing. Metal shutters rattled downward. Vendors stacked crates and counted the day's cash. The polished black car behind Julian looked completely out of place among old delivery vans and rain-stained pavement. Adrian Vale stared at the hand of the man who had destroyed his previous life. At 37, Adrian had watched Julian walk away with Valeworks clients, contracts, and reputation. At 22, Julian still wore a friendly smile. "We haven't met," Julian said. Adrian looked up at him. "No," Adrian replied. "Not yet." Julian's smile tightened slightly. He lowered his hand. That sounded more dramatic than it needed to. Nia Park stood beside Adrian with the 3 signed cleaning agreements folded in one hand. Her dark eyes moved between the two men. "You came all the way here because someone cleaned a few counters?" she asked. Julian looked at her. "Not because of the cleaning." His attention returned to Adrian. "Because of the offer." Maribel pulled the shutter halfway down over her stall but stopped to listen. Julian gestured toward the market. "You charged customers only after they inspected the result. No deposit, no trust required. Very little risk for them." Adrian said nothing. Julian continued, "That is difficult to refuse. It isn't complicated. Most profitable ideas aren't." The ledger appeared silently beside Julian. Future memory subject. Julian Rook. Recorded future relationship, business partner. Recorded future outcome, material betrayal, current timeline. Confidence declining. Adrian ignored the display. "What do you want?" he asked. Julian reached into his coat and removed a business card. The card carried no company logo, only his name, phone number, and a short title, Independent Commercial Broker. "I represent small businesses that need work done but don't want to hire employees," Julian said. "Cleaning, delivery, temporary labor, maintenance. I introduce the person with the problem to the person who can solve it." "You take a cut." "Of course." "How much?" "Depends on the job." "That means too much." Nia smiled faintly. Julian looked amused rather than offended. "I heard 12 vendors want cleaning tomorrow." Mara stepped forward. "They asked me. Nothing is confirmed." Julian nodded. "Exactly. You have interest, not contracts." Adrian's eyes narrowed. Julian held out the business card. "I can turn those conversations into paid commitments." Nia looked at Adrian. "That is the same thing I did today." Julian glanced at the $4 in her hand. "And you did it well." He looked back at Adrian. "But tomorrow's opportunity is larger, 12 stalls, possibly more. You will need schedules, pricing, payment terms, and a way to handle customers who change the job after agreeing." Adrian already understood all of that. In his previous life, Julian had been brilliant at turning informal relationships into formal deals. That was how Valeworks had grown. It was also how Julian had eventually taken control of its most valuable contracts. "What do you charge?" Adrian asked. Julian's expression became more serious. 20% of any contract I secure." "No." 15. "No." 10. "Still no." Julian laughed. "You negotiate aggressively for someone with $28. I have $28 because I negotiate aggressively. The ledger displayed Adrian's current position. Cash, $28. Verified net worth, $28. Liabilities, $0. Julian placed the card on Mara's counter. Then make me an offer. Adrian picked up the card but did not pocket it. 5% of collected revenue. You earn nothing until the customer pays. Julian shook his head. 5% is an insult. You are offering introductions. I provide the labor, materials, and performance risk. I provide access. Access has no value until it becomes payment. Julian studied him. Nia leaned toward Adrian. You know he can hear you, right? That is the point. Julian placed both hands in his coat pockets. 8%. 6. 7. Adrian considered it. 7% of 12 $6 jobs would be $5.04. If Julian actually secured all 12, Adrian could afford it. But a percentage gave Julian a reason to increase revenue, not merely create activity. 7% of collected revenue, Adrian said. Only for customers you directly secure. No claim on repeat work unless you manage the renewal. Julian's smile returned. Agreed. He extended his hand again. This time, Adrian accepted it. The moment their hands met, the ledger updated. Verbal commission agreement recorded. Commission rate, 7%. Payment. Condition, customer revenue collected. Exclusivity, none. Liability created, $0. Julian released Adrian's hand. Meet me here at 6 tomorrow morning. You are very confident. I already spoke with 3 vendors before approaching you. Adrian's expression hardened. Julian smiled. I prefer doing research before making an offer. He turned and walked toward the black car. Before entering, he looked back. One more thing. Adrian waited. You need a name. For what? For the service. It cleans counters. That is what it does, not what it is called. The car door closed behind him. Nia watched the vehicle leave. I don't trust him. Adrian looked down at Julian's card. Good. Nia frowned. That was not the answer I expected. It means you're paying attention. Mara finished lowering the shutter. You 3 can continue building your empire somewhere else. Adrian looked at the coins in his hand, the unused notebook pages and the $28 he had earned. An empire. The word sounded ridiculous. But 15 years from now, Valeworks would carry an $11 million debt. Every collapse started with something small. So did every company. At Brackett House, Adrian placed the $28 on his desk. Nia sat on the edge of the old chair, turning Julian's business card between her fingers. You knew him, she said. Adrian stopped writing. No. You looked at him like you did. I know his type. What type? The kind that sees people as leverage. Nia looked at the card. He also saw the value in what you built. He saw the value he could extract. That doesn't make him wrong. Adrian looked at her. Nia placed the card on the desk. You need customers. He can get customers. You need him until you don't. In his previous life, Adrian had believed loyalty came before structure. He had trusted Julian because they were friends. There had been no clear ownership rules, no protected customer records, and no limits on who controlled which relationships. That mistake had cost him everything. This time, Adrian would use contracts before trust. He wrote 3 headings in his notebook: customer, scope, payment. Underneath them, he added referral source, commission, repeat work. Nia leaned over his shoulder. You're making a contract, a record, with a notebook. It is what I can afford. You could buy a second-hand calculator. I can calculate. You counted 8 identical coins twice this morning. That was verification. That was anxiety. Adrian ignored her and continued writing. What should we call it? Nia asked. The cleaning service. The business. It is not a business yet. You have customers, expenses, labor, and commission. Adrian stopped. Nia folded her arms. It sounds like a business. Adrian considered several names. Vale Cleaning sounded temporary. Vale Services sounded vague. Vale Works made something tighten in his chest. That name belonged to the future he had lost. Using it now felt like stepping toward the same ending. Nia looked at the old notebook. What are you actually selling? Results? That sounds terrible as a name. Reliability. Worse. Verified work. Nia paused. That one is less bad. Adrian wrote, verified service. He stared at the words. The ledger appeared. Unregistered trade name recorded. Verified service. Nia looked at the page. It sounds serious. It should. It also sounds like a company that inspects fire alarms. We clean counters. For now. Adrian looked at her. Nia stood. You agreed to pay me $4 for 3 customers. What happens tomorrow? Adrian understood the question. She was not asking whether she should come. She was negotiating. $3 base pay, he said, plus 50 cents for every confirmed $6 job after the first 3. Nia immediately shook her head. $4 base, 50 cents for every confirmed job. You made $4 today. And tomorrow I have experience. You also have no other buyer for that experience. Nia smiled. Then find 12 customers without me. Adrian studied her. In his previous life, he had underpaid people when the company was desperate and promised to fix it later. Later had never come. He would not build another company on unpaid loyalty. $4 base, Adrian said. 50 cents for every customer after 4, paid after customer payment. After 4? After 3. Deal. They shook hands. The ledger updated. Labor agreement recorded. Base pay, $4. Performance pay, 50 cents per customer after 3rd. Payment condition, customer revenue collected. Current liability, $0. Nia pulled her hand away. You look at empty space every time money is involved. Adrian closed the notebook. I like numbers. You like them too much. At 5:45 the next morning, Adrian and Nia arrived at Lantern Yard Market. Julian was already waiting. He had replaced his expensive coat with a simpler dark jacket, but the polished watch remained. On the counter beside him lay 12 handwritten agreements. Adrian picked up the first one. Service, closing counter clean. Price, $6. Payment after inspection. Scope, front counter, display surface, and 1 marked area. Additional work, separate approval required. The wording matched Adrian's notebook almost exactly. You copied my format, Adrian said. I improved your format. Julian handed him a list. 9 confirmed, 3 undecided. Nia counted the pages. You said you could get 12. I said I could turn conversations into commitments. 9 is not 12. Julian smiled at her. It is also not 3. Adrian calculated quickly. 9 jobs at $6 meant $54 in revenue. Julian's 7% commission would be $3.78. Nia's pay would be $7, $4 base plus $2 for 4 customers beyond the 3rd. Materials remained the main problem. Adrian had 18 wipes left. The previous 3 closing jobs had required 16 wipes. 9 new jobs could require 48 or more. He could not complete the contracts with current inventory. Mara opened her stall and placed 2 cartons on the counter. 24 wipes per pack, she said. $8 each. Adrian looked at the stock. 2 packs would cost $16. His $28 could cover it, leaving 12. But if the jobs required more than 48 wipes, he would run out before finishing. How much for 3 packs? He asked. $24. 20. 23. 21. Mara looked at Julian. He taught you this. Julian shook his head. He was difficult before I arrived. Mara considered the offer. 22. Adrian placed $22 on the counter. Mara handed him 3 packs. The ledger updated. Inventory purchase, $22. Cash, $6. Inventory, 90 wipes. Liabilities, $0. Nia looked at the remaining $6. That is not much protection. It is enough. For what? For one mistake. Julian collected the agreements. Then let's avoid making 2. The first 4 jobs went smoothly. Adrian cleaned while Nia checked the agreed scope and confirmed payment. Julian moved between stalls, handling questions and preventing vendors from adding extra work without agreeing to an additional price. At the 5th stall, the owner pointed toward a large storage shelf behind the counter. That needs cleaning too. Nia checked the agreement. It isn't listed. I thought it was included. Julian stepped forward. The agreement includes the front counter, display surface, and 1 marked area. The owner frowned. I'm paying $6. For the agreed work, Adrian said. The owner looked at the half-cleaned counter. Then I won't pay. The market noise seemed to lower around them. Adrian looked at Julian. In the previous timeline, Julian would have smiled, apologized, and promised extra work for free. He had always protected the customer relationship, even when it damaged the company. But this Julian only crossed his arms. The completed work is available for inspection, he said. If it meets the written scope, payment is due. The owner looked between them. What if I refuse? Julian smiled politely. Then every vendor here learns that your signature means nothing. The owner glanced around. 2 nearby stallholders were already watching. After several seconds, he placed $6 on the counter. Next time, make the agreement clearer. Adrian accepted the payment. Next time, read it. Outside the stall, Julian looked at him. You nearly lost the customer. Adrian placed the cash with the other payments. A customer who refuses agreed payment is not a customer. Julian's expression became unreadable. Then he nodded. Good answer. The ledger appeared. Contract enforcement event recorded. Revenue. Collected, $6. Unpaid balance, $0. The remaining jobs continued until late afternoon. 9 counters were inspected. 9 customers paid. The ledger displayed the day's result. Starting cash, $28. New revenue, $54. Inventory expense, $22. Gross. Cash, $60. Naya Park base. Pay $4. Naya Park performance pay, $2. Julian Rook commission, $3.78. Adrian counted $6 for Nia. Then he counted $4 for Julian. Julian accepted the coins but returned 22 cents. 7%, he said, not more. Adrian looked at him. The future Julian had stolen millions. The young Julian returned 22 cents. Adrian placed the coins back in his palm. The ledger completed the calculation. Total labor expense, $6. Total commission. Expense, $3.78. Net profit, $22.22. Ending cash, $50.22. Verified net worth, $50.22. Liabilities, $0. Nia stared at the number Adrian had written in the notebook. $50. $50.22. You really are going to say the cents every time? They exist. Mara approached with another list. 7 of today's customers want weekly service. Julian took the paper. That is repeat revenue. Adrian looked at the names. 7 customers at $6 per week, $42 in predictable revenue. Small, but no longer random. What about the other 2? Nia asked. One wants a lower price, Mara said. The other says his nephew can do it. Julian turned to Adrian. 7 recurring customers. That is enough to start planning a route. Adrian looked across Lantern Yard Market. Yesterday, he had sold individual results. Today, he had signed contracts. Tomorrow, someone would try to take those contracts. A familiar pattern was already forming. The ledger changed. Milestone detected. First recurring revenue base established. Weekly contract value, $42. Then another message appeared. Warning. One active customer has received a competing offer. Adrian's eyes moved across the market. At the far end of the walkway, the cleaner with the dirty bucket stood beside one of Adrian's new customers. He was not alone. A broad-shouldered man in a red jacket handed the vendor a printed card. The card carried a company name, Brightcrest Facility Services. Julian's expression changed the moment he saw it. Nia noticed. You know them? Julian folded the customer list. They don't usually care about markets this small. Adrian watched the red-jacketed man point toward Verified Services' newly cleaned counters. What do they want? Julian looked at him. The same thing you do. The cleaning contracts? No. Julian's voice lowered. The market. The red-jacketed man did not look toward Adrian. He kept his attention on the vendor in front of him, as though the 3 people watching from across the market did not matter. The dirty cleaner stood beside him with both hands wrapped around the handle of an old metal bucket. The vendor turned Brightcrest's card over. $4? He asked. Per weekly visit, the red-jacketed man said. Your first visit is free. The vendor looked toward the counter Adrian had cleaned that afternoon. They charge $6. Then you save $2 every week. The answer was simple. It was supposed to be. Beside Adrian, Julian folded the list of recurring customers and slipped it into his coat. Do not react yet, he said. Adrian kept watching the conversation. Why? Because he wants to see what frightens you. Nia looked at Julian. And you know that because... Julian did not answer. At the far stall, the vendor signed nothing. He only placed the card beside his register. The man in red finally looked across the market. His gaze moved over Nia, then Adrian. It stopped on Julian. Recognition appeared without surprise. Rook. Julian's expression became pleasant in the way it did when he disliked someone. Ward. The man crossed the aisle. Up close, he was broad-shouldered and carefully groomed, with short dark hair and a red corporate jacket marked by black panels at the shoulders. He extended a hand. Caleb Ward, Regional Acquisition Manager. Adrian looked at the hand but did not take it. Caleb lowered it. You must be Verified Service. That is the business. I was asking which one of you owns it. I do. Caleb glanced at Adrian's clothes, the old shoulder bag, and the remaining cleaning supplies. How old are you? Old enough to read an offer. A small smile appeared on Caleb's face. Good. That saves time. He removed a folded page from a black document case and held it out. The heading read, Brightcrest Facility Services, Micro-Route Acquisition Offer. Adrian read the number near the bottom. $75. Nia leaned closer. For what? Caleb answered before Adrian could. The trade name, customer list, current service agreements, and a 14-day transition. The ledger opened. Current verified net worth, $50.22. Proposed cash consideration, $75. Immediate cash. Gain, $24.78. Recurring revenue. Surrendered, $42 per week. Adrian read the final line twice. You're offering $75 for 7 customers. I'm offering $75 for a business that did not exist yesterday. It existed? Not on any registry I can find. Nia looked at Adrian. Caleb continued. You have no insurance, no vehicle, no staff, no commercial equipment, and no legal operating history. You have a name in a notebook. And 7 customers. Customers change their minds. So do buyers. Caleb's smile thinned. The offer expires tomorrow at 6. Why tomorrow? Because the $4 route begins the morning after. He returned the acquisition page to the document case. Sell now and you make more than your business is worth. Refuse and you can compete. At a price below ours. That is usually how competition works. Caleb turned toward Julian. You still find interesting scraps. Julian's voice stayed calm. You still mistake size for value. Size becomes value when it survives. Caleb walked back toward the waiting cleaner. The cleaner lifted the bucket and followed him. Adrian watched the man's shoulders bend under the weight. The ledger marked both men. New subject identified. Name, Caleb Ward. Role, Brightcrest Regional Acquisition Manager. Negotiation, posture control through price and access. New subject identified. Name, Eli Mercer. Role, subcontract cleaner. Current employment. Stability, low. Current bargaining power, minimal. Nia exhaled. $75. No, Adrian said. I did not say we should take it. You were thinking it. I was thinking it is $75. Julian watched Caleb move to the next stall. It is a serious offer. Adrian looked at him. Whose side are you on? The side that understands numbers. Then understand this one. 7 customers pay $42 every week. In 2 weeks, the offer is smaller than the revenue. Revenue is not profit. Neither is surrender. Mara finished lowering her shutter. You can argue in the market tomorrow, she said. Go home before I charge rent. At Brackett House, the Brightcrest offer lay in the center of Adrian's desk. Nia sat in the old chair. Julian remained standing. Adrian wrote 3 figures in his notebook. Weekly revenue, $42. 10-week revenue, $420. Buyout offer, $75. Nia read them. 10 weeks assumes everyone stays. Correct. And that nothing goes wrong. Incorrect. Something will go wrong. Comforting. Adrian drew a line below the figures. The offer is not based on what we earn today. It is based on what Brightcrest believes it can take from the same customers later. Julian nodded once. Now you are reading it properly. Adrian turned the notebook toward him. You knew Ward. I knew of him. He knew you. Those statements can exist together. Nia crossed her arms. Try a statement that is useful. Julian looked at the acquisition offer. 2 years ago, I brought Brightcrest several delivery and maintenance routes. They paid well for access and badly for labor. You worked for them? I brokered for them. Why did you stop? They delayed contractor payments while reporting every invoice is settled. I recommended that my clients leave. Adrian studied him. That cost you money. Yes. You expect me to believe you chose the contractors over your commission? No, I expect you to verify it. The ledger appeared beside Julian. Statement, subject to future memory comparison. Known pattern, Julian Rook prioritizes long-term leverage. Possible motive, protection of broker reputation. Confidence in altruistic interpretation, low. Adrian looked away from the display. What does Brightcrest actually want? Route density, Julian said. 1 cleaner moving between nearby customers costs less than 7 cleaners traveling to 7 separate sites. Markets are valuable because every contract is within walking distance. Nia pointed at the $4 offer. Can they make money at that price? Not immediately. Then why offer it? Adrian answered. Because losing $2 for 8 weeks is cheaper than buying the customers after we grow. He pulled the Brightcrest sample agreement closer. The front page advertised $4 cleaning in large type. The second page used smaller print. Adrian read each line. Base service, front counter, surface only. Supplies, customer provided or surcharge applies. Grease, storage and display items excluded. Minimum term 12 weeks. cancellation. Notice 4 weeks, automatic renewal, yes, additional area fee from $3. Nia leaned over the desk. $4 is not $4. It is $4 until the customer needs something. Julian smiled. That sentence may be your first advertisement. Adrian opened to a clean page. We do not lower the price. Nia looked surprised. Not even to $5? If we copy Brightcrest's price, we admit the work is identical. The customers may not care. Then we show them the difference before they choose. He wrote, verified service. One clear price, written scope. Payment after inspection, no deposit, no minimum term, no automatic renewal. Additional work requires approval. Julian read the list. You need one more line. Which one? If your cleaner damages something, who pays? The room became quiet. Adrian had avoided the question because the answer was expensive. He wrote, Service Recovery Reserve, $10. The ledger responded, Internal Cash Reserve designated, Available Cash, $50.22. Service Recovery. Reserve, $10, unrestricted. Cash, $40.22. Nia looked at the amount. $10 will not replace much. It replaces more than zero. And if the damage costs $20, then I pay $20. With what? The money we have not earned yet. Julian's expression sharpened. That is a liability. Only if the damage happens. That is how liabilities begin. Adrian closed the notebook. Then we prevent the damage. The following morning, they returned to Lantern Yard before sunrise. Mara had arranged a small stack of printed comparison sheets. $2, she said. Nia counted the pages. For paper? For paper, ink, and the privilege of waking me before 6. Adrian paid. Cash expense. Printing $2. Remaining cash, $48.22. Mara placed 2 sealed boxes of wipes beside the papers. $120, $18. 16, Adrian said. 18. 17. You already woke me. Adrian paid 18. Supply purchase, $18. Inventory received, 120 wipes. Remaining cash, $30.22. Mara looked toward the market office. Doran met with Brightcrest last night. Julian stopped sorting agreements. The market manager? For almost an hour. About what? He did not invite me. Adrian looked at the office above the central aisle. The light was already on. We deal with the customers first. Nia took the list of 7 recurring vendors. 6 had agreed to meet before opening. The 7th had left a Brightcrest card on his counter. Oscar Lynn stood behind that counter when they arrived. I am trying them, he said before Adrian could ask. Because of the price? First week is free. Nia looked disappointed. Adrian crossed Oscar's name from the route. Understood. You are not going to offer 5? No. What if I come back? Then the price is 6. Oscar frowned. You do not negotiate much. I negotiate before the agreement. Outside the stall, Nia looked at the crossed-out name. That was one of 7. Now we have 6. You make losing a customer sound like arithmetic. It is arithmetic. It is also a person. Adrian looked back at Oscar. That is why he can return. The ledger appeared. First recurring customer churn event. Recurring customers, 6. Weekly contract value, $36. Cause, competing price offer. At the other end of the market, Caleb Ward arrived with Eli Mercer. Eli's bucket was cleaner than it had been the night before. His shirt was not. Caleb handed him a printed route. 8 stalls before 10. Eli read the page. This says front counter only. Then clean the front counters. They will ask for the displays. Offer the add-on. And if they refuse? Move to the next stall. Caleb noticed Adrian watching. You kept the business. I kept the customers who chose it. 6 of them. Adrian said nothing. Caleb looked at the comparison sheets in Nia's hands. Education is expensive. Discounts are simple. Simple offers are useful when the contract is complicated. Caleb smiled. By this afternoon, the customers will know which one they prefer. Agreed. The market opened. Nia controlled the route. She checked each agreement before Adrian touched a surface. Stall 12, counter, glass display, and marked shelf. Adrian placed the correct tools beside the counter. Payment? After inspection. Additional work? Separate approval. The vendor signed. Across the aisle, Eli moved faster. He wiped the front of Oscar's counter, ignored the grease beneath the register, and packed his cloth away. Oscar pointed at the display surface. You missed that. Eli checked his route. Not included. The other cleaner did it. Caleb stepped between them. The display is a $3 add-on. Oscar stared at him. You said $4. $4 for the listed service. Then clean the grease. That is a separate treatment. Oscar looked across the aisle. Adrian was cleaning a glass display while Nia checked the marked shelf. The difference did not need an advertisement. It only needed to be visible. At the 3rd verified service stall, Adrian saw Eli rinse a cloth in gray water. How much do they pay you? He asked. Eli did not look up. Enough? That was not a number. $3 a stall. Your supplies? Mine. When do they pay? Eli's hand slowed. Friday. Which Friday? Eli looked at him for the first time. Adrian held out one of the plain comparison cards. On the back, he wrote, $4. Per completed stall, supplies provided, payment after customer inspection, payment same day, no exclusivity. Eli read it. You cannot afford this. I can afford 3 stalls. Brightcrest gave me 8. Brightcrest gave you 8 chances to pay for their supplies. Caleb's voice came from behind them. Mercer. Eli lowered the card. Back to work. Eli placed the card in his pocket. I am working. For Brightcrest. Then pay for the wipes. The aisle went quiet for the 2nd time in 2 days. Caleb looked at the dirty water, the worn cloth, and the card in Eli's pocket. Finish today's route and submit the invoice. The last invoice is still unpaid. That is an accounting issue. It is my rent. Caleb's face lost its smile. Then we no longer require your services. Eli stared at him. You are firing me in the middle of 8 stalls? You are a subcontractor. I am ending the assignment. Caleb took the Brightcrest route from Eli's hand. Leave the market. Eli set down the bucket. Adrian picked up the route card he had written. 3 stalls, he said. $4 each. My supplies, same-day payment. Nia stepped closer. After I inspect the work. Eli looked between them. And if she rejects it, you fix it. And if the customer asks for more, you show them the scope. Julian watched from the end of the aisle. Eli removed the Brightcrest badge clipped to his apron. He placed it on top of Caleb's route. Which stall is first? The ledger opened. First subcontractor trial initiated. Subject, Eli Mercer. Trial assignment, 3 stalls. Pay rate, $4 per verified stall. Maximum labor commitment, $12. Payment condition, customer inspection. Complete. Adrian gave Eli a sealed pack of wipes. Nia handed him the first agreement. Read it before you start. Eli read every line. The next 3 hours passed in measured sections.
Adrian completed 3 stalls. Eli completed 3. Nia inspected 6 scopes, corrected 1 missed corner, and rejected an unapproved request to clean a storage rack. The customers inspected the work. 6 customers paid. At Oscar's stall, The Brightcrest counter remained clean only where the contract allowed it to be clean. Oscar looked at the grease under the register and then at Adrian. Next week, he said, "Is the price still $6? Yes. No free visit? No. Display included? If it is written in the scope." Oscar picked up Adrian's comparison sheet. "I will think about it. Do that before signing." At the end of the route, Nia counted $36. Recurring service revenue, $36. Customers served, 6. Payments collected, 6. Unpaid balance, $0. Adrian paid Nia $6. Then he counted $12 for Eli. Eli did not take it immediately. All of it. 3 stalls. For dollars each. No supply deduction. No. Eli accepted the money. When is the next route? 1 week. Do I have it? You have another trial. Eli almost smiled. Fair. The ledger completed the day's accounting. Starting cash, $50.22. Printing purchase, $2. Supply purchase, $18. Service revenue, $36. Nia Park labor, $6. Eli Mercer labor, $12. Julian Rook commission, $0. Nia looked at the final line. Julian gets nothing. Adrian shook his head. The commission applied to the first collected payment from contracts he sourced. Renewals were limited. Julian joined them. "I remember the agreement. You do not sound pleased." "I am pleased the agreement was clear." "That was not an answer. It was the answer you paid for." The ledger continued. Cash on hand, $48.22. Ending supply inventory value, $10.80. Verified net worth, $59.02. Liabilities, $0. Daily net worth increase, $8.80. Nia looked at Adrian. "We made money and have less cash because some cash became inventory. And you are going to explain that every time too, until you stop asking. Then it may take years." Mara approached without her usual list. This time, she carried an envelope. "Doran wants all service operators at the market office." Julian took the envelope. The front carried the Lantern Yard Market seal. Inside was a 1-page notice. Preferred Facilities Agreement. Service Provider, Brightcrest Facility Services. Effective, Friday, 6 a.m. Adrian read the next paragraph. Unauthorized third-party cleaning, maintenance, and delivery crews will not be permitted to operate within managed service lanes or common areas without written market approval. Nia looked toward the office. "They cannot cancel agreements between us and the vendors." "They do not need to," Julian said. Adrian folded the notice. "They only need to stop us entering." Caleb stood on the office walkway above them beside Martin Doran, the market manager. The Brightcrest logo had already been placed on the office window. Caleb rested both hands on the railing. "You kept 6 contracts," he called down. Adrian looked up. "For now, keep all 7 if you like." Caleb pointed toward the gates. "If your people cannot enter the market, you own paper." The ledger filled Adrian's vision. Critical operating risk detected. Active contracts, 6. Weekly contract value, $36. Primary service location, Lantern Yard Market. Access status after Friday, restricted. Time until restriction, 47 hours, 18 minutes. Nia read the notice again. "Could Doran do this?" Julian examined the signature block. "He can control the common lanes." "What about inside the stalls?" "The vendors lease their individual spaces, but every supply entrance opens onto a managed lane." Mara looked up at the Brightcrest logo. Doran has wanted one company responsible for the whole market for years. Adrian took the notice back. The agreement was signed by Doran. The property owner approval line was blank. So was the vendor association acknowledgement. "This is not complete," Adrian said. Julian saw the empty lines. "Not yet. How long before it is?" 47 hours, apparently. Adrian looked across Lantern Yard. 6 customers. Dozens of vendors. 1 manager. 1 in signed acknowledgement. Brightcrest had chosen price first. Access second. The contracts had never been the real target. Control was. Nia watched him. What are you thinking? Adrian folded the notice along its existing crease. We cannot beat Brightcrest by cleaning faster. Then how do we beat them? He looked toward every stall connected by the same narrow lanes. We make sure Doran is not the only person who gets to decide. The ledger changed. New objective identified. Prevent exclusive market access agreement. Time remaining. 47 hours, 16 minutes. Required leverage. Vendor association acknowledgement. Current verified support. 0. Adrian placed a notice on top of the 6 signed service agreements. We have 47 hours, he said. Julian smiled without humor. To clean the market? Adrian looked up at Caleb. To take the vote.
The $1 Empire. Episode 5, The Eighth Vote. 47 hours and 16 minutes remained. The number floated above the 6 service agreements on Adrian's desk. Below it, the ledger displayed the problem without offering an answer. Objective: prevent exclusive market access agreement. Required leverage: vendor association acknowledgement. Current verified support: 0. Nia Park looked from the notice to Adrian. You said we were taking a vote. We are. Do you know who votes? Adrian looked at Mara. Mara Bell had followed them back to Bracket House carrying the association rulebook in a cracked plastic folder. She placed it on the desk. 15 registered representatives, she said. 1 for each section of Lantern Yard. Management can appoint a company for the common lanes, Mara continued. It cannot use the association acknowledgement to close every leased stall unless 8 representatives approve. Julian opened the folder. Majority approval? 8 signatures. And who signs the acknowledgement line? Mara tapped one finger against the folder. The association treasurer. Nia looked at her. You are the treasurer? Nobody else wanted to count receipts after closing. Adrian looked again at the ledger. 15 representatives. 8 signatures. 6 customers. And 0 confirmed votes. Will you sign against the Brightcrest agreement? He asked. Mara's expression did not change. I will sign whatever the association approves. That was careful. That is why they let me hold the book. Julian turned to the rule governing special meetings. Doran can call the vote with 24 hours notice. Mara nodded. He already has. 5 tomorrow afternoon. Time until vote, 22 hours, 41 minutes. Nia pulled the 6 service agreements into a row. Then we ask the 6 customers to vote for us and find 2 more. No, Adrian said. No. If we ask them to protect our cleaning contracts, Caleb wins. Julian leaned against the wall. Because Brightcrest is cheaper, insured and large enough to service the whole market. Correct. Nia frowned. You could sound less pleased about it. I am pleased when the problem is visible. Adrian opened his notebook. He wrote 2 questions. Who cleans the common areas? Who chooses inside each stall? Mara read them. Doran wants one answer to both. Then we separate them. Adrian drew a line down the middle of the page. Brightcrest can bid for the common lanes. The vendors keep the right to choose who works inside the spaces they lease. Julian's eyes sharpened. You are not asking the association to reject Brightcrest. I am asking it to reject exclusivity. Nia took the pen from Adrian. Under the second question, she wrote. Written scope. Customer consent. Approved service hours. Payment after inspection. Damage responsibility. Choice without rules is how Doran frightens them, she said. Give him the rules. Adrian looked at the list. Good. Nia handed back the pen. I know. Adrian turned to a clean line in the notebook. $3 for the association proposal, vendor questions, and meeting record. Paid when the vote package is complete. Nia shook her head. $4. You are asking me to test the plan you did not know you needed. 4. Write that I control the final operating standard wording. Adrian added the line. They both signed beneath it. The ledger changed. Proposed alternative identified. Common area provider, subject to management contract. Stall level provider, vendor choice. Minimum operating standard, required. Verified support, 0 of 8. Association operations assignment, $4. Payment condition, vote package completed. Julian closed the association folder. I can speak to 5 representatives before noon. Not until we settle something, Adrian said. Julian waited. If Caleb tells them you brokered routes for Brightcrest before you do, every signature you collect becomes suspect. Mara looked at Julian. Nia did not. She was already watching him. Julian's expression became still. My history is not relevant to whether the clause is good. It will be relevant the moment Ward makes it relevant. You want me to introduce myself by explaining a failed commercial relationship? I want the truth to arrive from us first. Julian looked at the 6 agreements. That may cost votes. Finding out later will cost all of them. For several seconds, no one spoke. Then Julian nodded once. After they read the proposal. Before they sign. Before they sign, Adrian agreed. At sunrise, Lantern Yard was still locked. Mara opened the side gate with her vendor key. Nia carried a stack of comparison sheets. Adrian carried the rewritten association proposal. Julian carried nothing visible. The first representative owned 2 produced stalls near the south lane. He read the proposal twice. If I vote against Doran, can he increase my stall fee? Not because of a lawful association vote, Mara said. That was not my question. Adrian answered. He may still find another reason. I cannot promise he will not. The man pushed the proposal back. Then why should I take the risk for your business? You should not. Nia looked at Adrian but said nothing. Adrian pointed to the stall choice clause. Vote for it only if you want the right to replace us later without asking Doran. The representative read the sentence again. He did not sign. But he kept the paper. The second representative operated a flower stall. She circled the words damage responsibility. You have $10 reserved. Brightcrest has insurance. Correct, Adrian said. Then Brightcrest is safer. For a large loss, yes. That is not much of a sales pitch. It is not a sales pitch. If Brightcrest offers the service you want at terms you accept, choose them. The vote decides whether they are your only choice. She placed the paper beside her register. I will listen at the meeting. No signature. The third representative signed immediately. He had spent 4 years arguing with Doran about delivery windows. The fourth signed after Nia showed that the proposed standard applied to every provider, including verified service. The fifth refused because Brightcrest had offered 6 weeks of common area cleaning at no charge to vendors. The sixth asked whether the free service would remain free after the preferred provider term began. Nobody had shown him that part of the agreement. By 9 in the morning, the ledger displayed the result. Verified support, 2 of 8. Undecided, 3. Opposed, 1. Uncontacted, 9. Nia looked at the numbers. At this rate, the vote will happen before we finish asking. Then we stop asking the same way. Adrian looked toward the market office. The full Brightcrest agreement was visible through the glass, beneath Martin Doran's hand. We need the document they are voting on. Mara walked into the office first. Adrian, Nia and Julian waited outside while she spoke to Doran. Through the glass, Doran shook his head. Mara opened the association folder and placed one page beside the agreement. Doran read it. His face tightened. 5 minutes later, Mara returned carrying a copy. Association treasurer, she said. Nobody wants the work until the title becomes useful. Julian accepted the pages. The contract was 12 sheets long. The first page promised one accountable provider, insured coverage and reduced common area costs. The final pages defined what that control included. Adrian read each clause aloud. Managed service category, cleaning and sanitation. Provider access priority, exclusive during operating windows. Vendor-appointed providers, subject to management approval. Approval may be withdrawn for operational convenience. Term, 24 weeks. Early termination, management breach only. Nia tapped the fourth line. Operational convenience means anything. It means whatever management can defend, Julian said. Mara turned to the pricing schedule. The common lanes are free for 6 weeks. Then the market pays $140 a week. From where? Nia asked. Shared maintenance levy. So the vendors pay. Indirectly, Julian said. That means yes. Adrian read the individual stall schedule. The $4 offer remained. So did the add-on fees. Caleb had not lied about the price. He had made the cheapest number the easiest one to see. Adrian copied the relevant clauses onto a single sheet. Nia stopped him. No. No what? You are making another comparison advertisement. The clauses matter. Then let the clauses matter. Do not tell them Brightcrest is evil. Show them what choice they are giving away. Adrian looked at the page. She was right. He crossed out the heading he had written. Brightcrest contract problems. He replaced it with decision before the association. Option A, one exclusive provider for common areas and stalls. Option B, one common area provider, vendor choice inside leased stalls. Below both options, he listed the same operating standards. Better, Nia said. Julian looked amused. You enjoy correcting him. Someone should. You assume he listens. Adrian gathered the pages. We have 19 hours. That was not a denial, Julian said. The second round went faster. They no longer asked vendors to protect verified service. They asked who should control work inside each stall. A spice seller signed because she used a specialist cleaner twice a month. A fish vendor signed because he did not want Doran approving emergency refrigeration repairs under a future managed category. A clothing seller refused because he wanted one company to call when anything went wrong. A bakery representative remained undecided because Brightcrest carried insurance and Adrian did not. By noon, support reached 5. Then Caleb Ward entered the central aisle. He carried the same black document case. Martin Doran walked beside him. Doran posted the meeting notice beneath the Brightcrest logo. Special Vendor Association vote. 5 p.m. Caleb looked at Adrian's two-option sheet. You improved the question. The first one was incomplete. The first one was simple. Simple for the person receiving control. Caleb picked up a copy. You have no insurance. Correct. No vehicle. Correct. A $10 recovery reserve. Also correct. Several vendors were listening now. Caleb held the page so they could see it. And this is the provider asking you to reject an insured company with trained teams. Adrian did not answer immediately. The future version of him would have hidden the weakness. He would have changed the subject, attacked the competitor and promised the reserve would grow. This time, he looked at the vendors. If you need insured coverage today, choose Brightcrest. Nia's eyes moved toward him. Caleb's smile returned. Adrian continued. If verified service fails your standard, remove us. Option B protects that decision. Option A removes it. The smile disappeared. A flower stall representative picked up the two-option sheet again. Caleb returned the paper to the counter. Choice is expensive when nobody is responsible. Nia answered before Adrian could. That is why the standard names who is responsible. She pointed to the requirements. Written scope. Customer consent. Approved service hours. Damage responsibility. Inspection before payment. Those rules apply to us too, she said. Caleb looked at her. And when $10 cannot repair the damage? Then the vendor should choose someone else. The answer came without hesitation. Adrian watched two undecided representatives exchange a look. One signed. Verified support, 6 of 8. At 1:30, Eli Mercer arrived carrying a folded invoice. He had changed into a clean gray shirt, but the old charcoal apron remained. Mara said you were looking for documents. Adrian looked at the invoice. It showed 8 completed Brightcrest stalls from the previous week. Payment due Friday. Payment status blank. Eli also had 3 dated messages asking when the invoice would be processed. Caleb's replies used the same phrase each time. Accounting review pending. This proves they have not paid you yet, Adrian said. It does not prove they never will. Eli's jaw tightened. You want me to wait until the vote is over? I want you to say exactly what the evidence proves. They used my supplies. They gave me the route. I finished it. They still owe me. Then say that. Nothing more. Julian watched Adrian return the invoice. You are making a weak argument weaker. I am making it accurate. Eli folded the paper. Will accurate get my money? Not today. But if you exaggerate, Ward only has to disprove one word to make the rest useless. Eli considered that. Then he nodded. At 2, Julian asked 5 representatives to meet beside Mara's closed stall. He placed his old Brightcrest broker card on the counter. The card was 2 years out of date. Before you sign anything I brought you, he said, you should know I previously introduced contractors and service routes to Brightcrest. One representative immediately pushed Adrian's proposal away. So this is a fight between former partners. No, Julian said. Brightcrest was a client. Then it stopped being one. Why? Several contractors reported delayed payments while Brightcrest's records showed invoices in review or settled. I advised them to leave. And now you bring us a competitor. I brought you a clause. Read it without trusting me. The representative stood. I have read enough. He left. The ledger updated. Verified support, 5 of 8. Disclosure cost, 1 withdrawn support. Disclosure value, conflict revealed before vote. Nia waited until the other representatives had gone. You knew that would happen, she said to Adrian. I knew it could. And you still made him say it. If Caleb said it at 5, we would not have time to recover. Julian picked up the old card. He is right. Nia looked at him. That does not mean he gets to enjoy being right. I rarely object to that part. Adrian looked toward the departing representative. We need 3 more. 2, Mara said. The flower stall representative stood behind her. She signed the proposal. $10 is not enough, she told Adrian. I know. Then increase it before you work in my stall. Agreed. Verified support, 6 of 8. The 7th signature came from the produce representative who had feared retaliation. Doran had passed his stall twice that afternoon without mentioning the vote. That did not prove safety. It proved only that fear was not evidence either. He signed at 4:12. Verified support, 7 of 8. Time until vote, 48 minutes. One representative remained uncommitted. Oscar Lynn. Adrian found him cleaning grease beneath his own register. The Brightcrest free visit had covered the front counter. Nothing else. Oscar did not look up. If you came to say $6 includes the display, I remember. I came to ask how you want to vote. Brightcrest is cheaper. For the base service. They have insurance. Yes. They can replace a cleaner if one disappears. Yes. Oscar finally looked at him. You are bad at asking for support. I am asking for a decision. If I vote for your option, do I have to hire you? No. Can I keep Brightcrest? Yes. Then what do you gain? The right to earn the choice again next week. Oscar looked at the grease on his cloth. And if I vote for Doran's option? You keep Brightcrest whether you like them later or not. Oscar set the cloth beside the register. I will decide at 5. He did not sign. The meeting began with all 15 representatives present. Doran stood behind a long folding table. Mara sat at one end with the association book. Caleb sat beside the Brightcrest agreement. Adrian remained standing with Nia and Julian behind him. Eli waited near the back wall. Doran raised one hand. Lantern Yard needs one accountable provider for common areas and managed service access. Brightcrest offers insured coverage, scheduled staff and 6 weeks without common area charge. He looked toward Adrian. Verified Service has submitted an alternative acknowledgement. Mara distributed both pages. Doran continued. Their proposal allows Brightcrest to service common areas while preserving vendor choice inside leased stalls, subject to operating standards. Caleb spoke next. Choice sounds attractive until responsibility becomes divided. When a lane is blocked, a surface is damaged or a cleaner fails to arrive, management needs one company to call. He opened the document case. Brightcrest has insurance, replacement staff and established reporting. Verified Service has 6 contracts, no insurance and $10 reserved for damage. The number moved through the room in quiet whispers. Adrian did not interrupt. Caleb placed one final page on the table. There is another matter. Julian Rook, who helped prepare the alternative, previously received commissions for placing routes with Brightcrest. Several representatives looked toward Julian. Julian stepped forward. Correct. Caleb had expected denial. The pause showed it. Julian continued. I disclosed that relationship before requesting any signature. I stopped brokering for Brightcrest after contractors showed delayed payments. Mr. Mercer has one such unpaid invoice now. Eli unfolded the paper. 8 stalls, he said. Completed last week. Payment due Friday. Still pending. Caleb did not look at him. One invoice in review does not define a company. Adrian answered. Agreed. Now Caleb looked at him. Then why bring it? Because one company should not control access merely because it is larger. Size can reduce risk. It can also concentrate it. Adrian placed the 2 options side by side. Brightcrest may be the best provider for the common lanes. Oscar may decide it is the best provider for his stall. The flower section may decide insurance matters more than price. Another vendor may choose a specialist. He tapped option B. This does not guarantee work to Verified Service. It guarantees that the person paying for work inside a stall keeps the right to choose it. Doran folded his arms. And when one of those providers creates a problem? Nia stood. Then enforce the standard. She read each requirement. Written scope. Vendor consent. Approved hours. Named worker. Damage responsibility. Inspection record. Management can remove a provider who breaks those rules. It cannot remove one only because another company wants exclusivity. A representative near the window raised the Brightcrest agreement. What about the common areas? Adrian answered. Award them to Brightcrest if the market believes the terms are fair. We are not bidding for work we cannot staff. Julian looked at him. The old Adrian would have promised capacity he did not possess. This Adrian gave part of the opportunity away. Caleb noticed too. You are surrendering the larger route. I never owned it. Doran looked from the exclusive agreement to the alternative. The association will vote by signed card. Option A approves the Brightcrest Preferred Provider Agreement as written. Option B approves Brightcrest for common areas but rejects exclusive control inside leased stalls. Mara counted the cards. The first vote went to option A. The second to option B. Then A. Then B. 5 votes for exclusive access. 5 for vendor choice. The 11th card gave Caleb 6. The 12th tied the vote again. The 13th went to option B. 7-6. The 14th went to option A. 7-7. Mara held the final folded card. Oscar sat with both hands on the table. Mara opened it. Option B. 8-7. For 1 second, Lantern Yard was silent. Then the vendors began speaking at once. The ledger appeared. Objective complete. Exclusive stall access clause rejected. Vendor choice resolution, 8-15. Brightcrest common area contract, approved subject to property owner. Mara signed the association acknowledgement. Not beneath the original Brightcrest agreement. Beneath the amended resolution. Caleb closed his document case. You won the stalls, he said. The vendors kept the stalls, Adrian replied. And Brightcrest kept the market lanes. Then we both have work to do. Caleb looked toward Julian. You taught him to compromise. Julian smiled faintly. No. He taught himself not to confuse compromise with surrender. Doran removed the Brightcrest logo from the vendor services notice. He left the logo on the common area contract. All stall-level providers register by Monday, he said. Names, service windows, damage procedure, and vendor authorization. Same rules for everyone. Nia collected a blank registration form. We can meet those. Doran looked at Adrian's worn shoulder bag. Then prove it on paper. Outside the office, Adrian counted $4 into Nia's hand. Association proposal, vendor questions, and meeting record, he said. Nia checked the amount against their signed line. Assignment complete. The ledger recorded the payment. Nia Park Association operations, $4. The following week, 7 vendors waited for verified service. Oscar had returned. $6, he said. Counter, display and the marked shelf. Adrian placed the scope in front of him. Read it before signing. Oscar did. Eli completed 4 stalls. Adrian completed 3. Nia inspected all 7, rejected 1 streaked display and made Adrian clean it again. You inspected my work twice, he said. You complain more than Eli. I own the service. Then you can afford the correction. Every customer approved the work. Every customer paid. The 7-stall route had consumed 36 wipes at 15 cents each. Recurring service revenue, $42. Customers served, 7. Payments collected, 7. Unpaid balance, $0. Adrian paid Nia $6. He paid Eli $16. Julian watched the money change hands. And my commission? Renewal excluded. I remember. You sound disappointed. I am considering the value of helping you win a market vote for free. Nia looked at him. You did it for long-term leverage. Julian smiled. He has been teaching you my lines. No, Adrian said. She verified them. The ledger reconciled the week. Starting cash, $48.22. Starting supply inventory, $10.80. Printing expense, $3. Nia Park Association operations, $4. Service revenue, $42. Nia Park labor, $6. Eli Mercer labor, $16. Supplies consumed, 36 wipes/$5.40. Recognized expenses, $34.40. Net profit, $7.60. Ending cash, $61.22. Ending supply inventory, $5.40. Liabilities, $0. Verified net worth, $66.62. Service recovery reserve, $10. Unrestricted cash, $51.22. A new ledger card opened. Contract review trial initiated. Review categories. Access rights. Decision authority. Exit terms. Enforcement standard. Adrian looked across Lantern Yard. Bright Crest workers cleaned the common lanes in matching red and black uniforms. Verified service worked inside 7 stalls. The market had not chosen a winner. It had kept the right to choose. Mara approached with another notice. Property owner approved the amended agreement, she said. Nia smiled. Then why do you look annoyed? Mara handed Adrian the second page. Approved stall service providers. Service recovery bond required, $100. Compliance deadline, Monday, 6 a.m. Adrian read the number. The ledger compared it with his cash. Required recovery bond, $100. Current cash, $61.22. Funding gap, $38.78. Time remaining, 71 hours, 52 minutes. Borrowing, prohibited. Nia looked toward the 7 signed agreements. We won the choice. Adrian folded the notice. Now we have 3 days to afford it.